Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited about this series of videos that I'm going to do in March that focus on travel tips and travel locations. This first video today, I'm going to focus on the island of St. Lucia. I just returned from a wonderful 8-day vacation on this beautiful island. And if you haven't had a chance to visit St. Lucia, I really hope that you do. I hope that the tips that I'm going to share with you today will make sure that your vacation is the best that it possibly can be. For those of you that are new to this channel, my name is Jen Hanno, and on this channel I post fashion and lifestyle content. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so tip number 1. Bring some Dramamine. I don't know if you are prone to motion sickness or car sickness. I kind of am, but St. Lucia is a very mountainous island. It is a volcanic island, and anytime we drove anywhere, the roads were very windy, up and down, over and around. And if you are at all prone to motion sickness, this will not be fun for you. Even the ride straight from the airport to our resort in Gross Inlet was an hour and a half of windy up and down roads on an empty stomach. So I would definitely suggest that if you are prone to motion sickness, that you pack some non-drowsy Dramamine, and don't forget to use it before you go off on any kind of an excursion, because if you are not driving and you are, as I was, in the back of a bus, that can be very tricky for you. So number 1, be prepared to be car sick. Okay, tip number 2, you might want to bring an adapter. I actually have an adapter that I purchased before I went to Peru several years ago. I didn't even think to pack it with me. And when we got to our hotel room, the outlets were few and far between, and most of them were not the standard American plug. We were able to find a plug in the back. If we pulled the dresser out, we were able to plug in some of our hair accessories into that. But the reach to the mirror from there was a little bit tight, and there were no American outlets in the bathroom. So that created a little bit of an issue sometimes with getting ready if you want to use your own hair dryer, or if you, as I do, need a straightener to not look like you're going to scare small children on the road. You might really want to consider packing an adapter with you, because I really wished that we had one that we could set up and make sure that we were all set to go with that. Okay, tip number 3 that I did not realize until we were there, and it didn't really affect me that much, but there were other travelers that we encountered that were struggling with trying to find an ATM to get some more cash out. I think they probably wanted to be able to tip people on excursions, and they did not have enough cash to do that. And their hotel, they were staying at a Sandals, they did not have an ATM there. So they were struggling a little bit to find an ATM that they could use. They found one downtown, but it didn't work. So there was a little bit of a problem with that. Another thing to note is that when we were in our gift store, we could not put things like grocery items in the gift store. We couldn't charge that to our room. We had to pay cash for that, and you could pay with American currency, but they could not give us back change in American currency. So we had to pay in American, and then they would give us back the change in St. Lucian currency, which was not really a big deal, but it's just a little something for you to be aware of. You might want to make sure you have some smaller bills with you so that you can make sure that you make the most of the occasions that you have. Okay, tip number 4. I did not realize how much it was going to rain in St. Lucia. We were traveling in what they call the dry season, but several people from our resort, locals, told us that their weather has become much less predictable in recent years. Maybe due to climate change, I'm not sure. But a lot of times the weather forecast was for pure sun, 82 degrees, but we would have several brief showers. Now, to be honest, the showers only lasted a few moments, and then the sun came out and everything dried up. But boy, when it rained hard. There is a rainforest on the island of St. Lucia. So I think that rain is part of the reason why the island looks so lush and beautiful. But you might want to pack a small umbrella if you are headed out onto an excursion, because there were a couple excursions where you would get really drenched. And if you're on a boat or something, you might get a little cold if you're traveling after that. It won't last long. The sun came out very quickly, but still, it is something that I didn't know and something you might want to be prepared for. Okay, next up, I probably should have grouped this in with the tip about the adapters. But our resort, and I find this happens a lot when I'm traveling, it's not just St. Lucia, but frequently there's not enough mirrors in the room if you have more than one female in the room trying to get ready and do your makeup or put your contacts in. And there was not a lot of room in our resort to do that. And sometimes when they do have mirrors, the lighting isn't great, which is why I invested in this travel mirror by DeWeisen. And I'll put the links for this and everything else that I'm talking about in the description box below. But this is a great item to have with you. It doesn't take up much room, and it does light up if it's fully charged, and gives you a really nice place where you can put your makeup or put your contacts in anywhere in the room that you choose. So on our trip to St. Lucia, we planned only 2 excursions. They were both full day excursions though. And the first one that I'll talk about, we went to the mud baths. Now, we were able to book a boat ride that took us to Soufrière, which is where the mud baths are. And we were able to enjoy the mud baths, and there was a lunch, and then there was some snorkeling afterwards, or just relaxing on a beach before we came home kind of late in the day. I would say that there are a couple things that you need to know if you are planning on visiting the mud baths, which are, by the way, really fun and just a very interesting and fun thing to do. The mud baths, I think, are in a town called Soufrière, which really, I think, translates to sulfur. They talked about how the town smelled like sulfur. I didn't notice it was too bad, and I have a very sensitive nose. But this is because the baths that you are, dipping into have dust and mud that came from the eruption of volcanoes years ago. And so it is supposed to be really good for your skin and make you look really young and be really wonderful for your skin. Anyway, it's really kind of fun. But you do need to know 2 things that you need to bring. Number 1, you should bring a black, cheap bathing suit. I think a 2-piece kind of works the best for this kind of a situation if you're comfortable in one. I just purchased a very inexpensive one on Target that I didn't mind if it got ruined. Because a lot of women, if you are wearing a swimsuit that is not black and is not dark, the mud can stain your suit and you might not be able to use it again. So that's one tip for you. Secondly, going to the mud baths, you need to bring a towel because they don't have towels there for you. So you can either grab one that they have at your resort, if that's possible, or you can buy your own and bring it with you. I purchased this one just recently from the H&M website. It's super cute. It's black mostly with a little bit of ecru and has this really great strap to carry it with. And it folds up pretty concisely. So my black bathing suit and this, I felt really well prepared for our trip to the mud baths, and we really did have a great time. I will also say that if you're heading out on a situation like that, you definitely want to have your phone with you, but you're going to encounter a lot of water and a lot of liquid. Therefore, one of these little cases where you can put your phone in it and it will protect it from water is actually a really great idea to have with you for several excursions when you're out on the water. Better safe than sorry, I think. A lot of people had these and they had kind of almost a crossbody strap with them so that they could keep it with them and be absolutely sure that their phone did not get damaged in the excursion. Our second chosen excursion was to hike one of the big mountains on St. Lucia. We were going to hike up, we did hike up Gros Piton. There are 2 big mountains, Gros Piton and Petit Piton. Petit Piton is the smaller of the two, but it is very steep. So it's not quite as tall as Gros Piton, but it seems to be a much steeper climb. We did not climb that one. We instead climbed Gros Piton. Now, it seems to me that when you climb this mountain, you don't do it by yourself. There has to be a guide with you, which actually is kind of a good thing. I think you pay for that. You pay for the guides. They bring you up. They make sure that you are safe. I was very impressed with the level of professionalism for the people who were your guides up and down the mountain. They were really wonderful. They were patient. They were kind. They placed safety as a top priority. So I felt really good about that. And I did not think that it was a dangerous climb. I didn't feel like it was dangerous, but it was a climb, not a hike. There's a difference, I think, between hiking a mountain and climbing a mountain, and this is a climb. There are most of the time, I would say, where you are really hand over feet. It's mostly rock face, right from the very beginning onward. So that is why I would suggest that if you plan on doing that climb, you take some hiking shoes with you. I have 2 pairs of hiking shoes. Merrill are my top favorites, and I bought a second pair for this trip from LL Bean. They are kind of a pain to pack in your suitcase because they do take up a lot of room, unfortunately, but they were well worth it when you were climbing that mountain. There were several other people that were not in footwear that I would have been comfortable with. Some people were even in sandals. They were kind of more sports sandals, which I think worked okay for them going up the mountain, but coming down the mountain, your foot slides. And I don't know if that was probably the best choice. Wouldn't have been for me, but some people obviously, have different comfort levels when it comes to that. But the other thing about climbing Gros Piton is that it is quite a strenuous climb. And, when you look it up, the description of the mountain it defines it. Some descriptions define it as kind of a moderate climb. Now, I guess that totally depends on your experience and your age. I am 57 years old, and for me, it was a very strenuous climb up that mountain. And I struggled a little. Another thing that entered into the equation of struggling is that we did not have breakfast before we left because our resort did not open for breakfast until 8 o'clock, and we had to leave at about 6:30, 6:45 to make the trip to climb Gros Piton. So we had, a granola bar or something. I did not have protein in me. That combined with a long, windy road before we even got to the mountain made me really carsick. And so those two things did not bode well for a really enjoyable climb up the mountain. It is absolutely beautiful and breathtaking. And as I said, the guides were fantastic in terms of making sure that you were safe and you were smart in what you did. So it is definitely a worthwhile climb, but I found it fairly strenuous, and I think that you really need to be prepared. I don't think I was in as good a shape as I needed to be to really be able to do that task. So, and that was something I tried to look up, but I did not see it described as strenuous as I thought it was. Wear hiking shoes, bring mosquito repellent, and bring sunscreen, and definitely bring enough water, although they were very careful about making sure that the climbers had adequate water to climb the mountain. So that's a really important one for me. So finally, the last thing that I really didn't understand completely before I traveled is that the island of St. Lucia is bigger than I thought it was. And we had to travel an hour and a half to get to some of the sites that we wanted to see. We were staying in Gross Inlet, which wasn't too far from Castries, but still, to get to the mud baths, to get to the mountains, we had at least an hour and a half to get to the airport. We had at least an hour and a half drive ahead of us. And so that's something I think that you need to plan for. Like I said, if you're going to climb that mountain, I would really recommend doing what you need to do to make sure you have enough fuel in you before you head off on that trip. But I can't express to you enough how beautiful this island is, how wonderful the people are, and what a fantastic time we had there. I hope that if you go, that you also have as good a time as I did. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Jennifer Hanno, and if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, please remember to hit that subscribe button and check back. the next couple, and later on in this week, I'm going to post another video about items to pack and what to wear in the airport and on the plane and travel accessories and all of the things that are fresh in my mind for this trip, the things that I wish I had done and the things I was glad I did do. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.